Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining India session. In this 45-minute sessions will be a very deep discussion around climate change, water, sanitation, and hygiene. I am Sharon Amanda. I am a corporate partnership leader for the World Vision or Wahana Visi Indonesia, and we are delighted to have you in this session. As we know all that climate crisis is recognized today globally as an essential crisis for humankind and various life forms that coexist on this planet Earth. The frequency and intensity of disaster affecting the region has been on steady increase in recent years. The global targets of reducing carbon emissions and nationally determined contribution need ownership, not just by the state, but also by organizations, by corporate houses, institutions, and at any individual level to collectively address this existential crisis. Similarly, wash issues in the region have been a barrier to the development of vast sections of vulnerable communities. Millions of people globally, and particularly in Asia, still lack access to safe drinking water and access to basic sanitation facilities. These are among the leading causes of child mortality, morbidity, and malnutrition issues, as well as act as barriers to children's holistic development. The issues of climate change and WASH has its implications on a wide range of sectors like livelihoods, agriculture, food security, health, education, and malnutrition. The need for collective action is becoming key towards ensuring an equitable and sustainable development for all. We'll share with you the video on wash intervention experience that has been implemented by World Vision India.
10 years, water, sanitation, and hygiene has been an integral part of World Vision India's child health programs. WASH, as we know it, is an active component of almost all our corporate engagements. Our corporate partnerships on WASH in the communities, schools, and healthcare facilities have been instrumental in reducing infant mortality, increasing community resilience, enhancing livelihood, and promoting children's rights. With best global practices and technical expertise, World Vision India incorporates 5 key approaches in all its WASH programs: behavioral communication change, community-based WASH solutions, WASH in schools, WASH in emergencies, and WASH in healthcare. Since 2012, World Vision India has provided access to clean and safe drinking water to over 1.3 million people in India. In the last 1 year, close to 2 million people were sensitized on sanitation and hygiene. We want to thank all our corporate partners for supporting our WASH interventions over the years. You have changed the lives of vulnerable children in India. World Vision India, together for children, for change, for life.
Great, that's very touching video. And once again, I would like to welcome 12 people in this session. And we have three speakers here for the India current concurrent sessions. And we have the first one, Mahesh Nathan, that will be speaking about WASH. Mahesh Nathan is a Director, Resource Mobilization Institution for World Vision India. He has development professional with over 30 years of experience working with governments, UN agencies, World Bank, MNCs, international NGOs. He also became public health manager that designing and implementing large-scale projects. Mahesh will be sharing about WASH and Mahesh, this science is yours.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever we are seated across Asia. It's a pleasure. I will be making a short presentation on WASH this morning. Next slide, please. There's just a background on stunting burden in global and Asia. If you look at Asia, the scenario is not very good. It's 28%, and in India, it's 35.5%. Next, please. Water is a huge issue in India. 54% of India faces high stress or extremely high stress areas. Contamination of water, groundwater is reducing and the population is going up. Next, please. The problem is 70% of India's population uh, don't have access to improved sanitation. They use, but 30% defecate in the open. Children under 5 were stunted at 35.5% in India. There's a huge prevalence of diarrhea of 7%. And there's a strong linkage between open defecation and stunting. Though we have access to water, the quality of water is not good. There is a huge burden on childhood morbidity and mortality. Next, please. There's a need for WASH, poor water, sanitation, and hygiene, increased child vulnerability, poor families incur huge hidden costs, women and girls bear the brunt. It is WASH is a sectoral priority for World Vision India. Next. These are the SDGs where WASH has its influences 5, 2, 6, 3, and 4. You know, so the basic foundation is WASH and it's linked to the various SDGs. Next, please. We follow a life cycle approach in India. So we have WASH in communities, WASH in institutions, WASH in emergency and advocacy, right from -9 to +5. So be it from prenatal care uh, uh, to the birth, then post up to 5, childcare and schooling, and then protection. So we follow a life cycle approach so that we cover, WASH covers the whole life cycle of a child. Thank you. Next. Our project models are hygiene promotion and behavioral change. Because for sustainability, we focus on behavioral change, integrated community-based WASH in schools and health facilities, WASH in emergencies. We are usually the first responder, and WASH in urban context. Because the urban issues are different when it comes to the rural issues. Next, please. A short glimpse of what we have done, our outcomes. Next, please. In water, number of people with access to drinking communities, water facilities in communities, and provision of 2,077 community-based hand pump attached filtration units. Number of hub and spoke. We use solar water systems to pump the water out and supply 100% to all the villages. And the household water solutions, more than 42,500, 4 lakhs 25,000. Next, please. These are some of the things. What examples? The hub and spoke, the taps, the household water filtration, and the community water filtration. Next, please. Okay, these are sanitation facilities where we have bio toilets and with access to water, and then also we have trained the communities to build their own toilets and we provide the materials. Next, please. In terms of household sanitation, we use locally appropriate material. In the northeast, there's a lot of availability of bamboo, so we use bamboos in the northeast. And for urban slums where there's no access, we use bio toilets because they don't have access to septic tank or to drainage systems. Next, please. Hygiene, just a snapshot where we teach the school children and communities that it's important, why hand washing is important and why regular hand washing prevents people from, 60% of all infections can be prevented. So we have reached schools and, yeah, next, please. Wash and institution, we work with schools and we work with hospitals because both these areas are very important for infection prevention control. And all our programs in schools or hospitals are gender and disabled friendly. So it's important that we give access to women, we empower women, and we also focus on disability. Next. The water wheel, because in Rajasthan they have huge issues of access to water. They have to travel a long distance, so people have to go. Then we have hand washing sessions, and interfaith engagement is very key, where we mobilize because India is a spiritual country, Asia is a spiritual country. We work with various actors in the faith space, and we mobilize them on the importance of hygiene and importance of wash. Next. Improved capacities of communities to sustain wash. We focus on women and interfaith leaders for sustainability, where we empower women because being patriarchal society, it's important that women have a voice and women get involved in decision making. And we train them to repair their own hand pumps and other small repair jobs. So it also adds on to livelihood. Next, please. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mahesh. Great. I saw that your presentations also have gender and disability friendly to the WASH projects in India. So, for every participants here, I would like to remind you, if you have any questions coming to your mind, just click the Q&A features and you can type your questions there. I'll be sorting the questions to you after the presentations for all three speakers that we have. So after hearing about the presentations from Mahesh, we are also having presentations for Dr. Salman. So Dr. Salman will be speaking around climate change, and he is the head of climate change and disaster risk reductions for World Vision India. Dr. Salman Jacob started his professional career as assistant professor in environmental science at Shivaji University, and he has subsequently worked in various capacities related to environment management and disaster management in different national and international organizations. Salmon, at present, is actively involved in developmental programs with communities at the grassroots across India on issues of climate change mitigation, adaptation, and disaster reduction. He has a master's in environmental management, MPhil in environmental science, and PhD in anthropology with doctoral research focusing on the impact of climate change and environmental degradation on tribal communities. So, Dr. Salman Jacob, the time is yours.
Thank you, Cyril, for that introduction. And Good morning to all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, if at all, whichever part of the world you are. So, uh, I'll be focusing my talk on the climate change programs at World Vision India to give you a glance, and also on the opportunities that are there to collaborate and to work together. As we know that right from the beginning of in the first session onwards, we have heard about the challenges that are there that have been opposed to us, to humanity, due to climate change and its um, issues that are there. So, yeah, let's go to the next slide, and this just gives you a glance of where World Vision India works in India. So the green spots are the locations where World Vision has the developmental programs in the country. So we have a pan-India footprint, and we impact close to about 2.6 million children and their families. Through long-term developmental programs, we have roughly about 118 long-term developmental programs, and where we integrate the aspects of climate change, integrate the aspects of disaster risk reduction through these programs. Next slide, please. And talking about climate change, there are a number of issues that are arising as a result of the climatic changes, changes in the weather patterns, and so on and so forth. And it is definitely, as we all understand, is a complex issue, and there are a number of factors where each one of us in this region, in the Asia Pacific, we are all impacted in some way or the other. So I have highlighted a few points which are randomly chosen, not in terms of their priority, but these are the points which are impacting each of our lives, and mostly the vulnerable communities that are there in particularly when we look at India and this whole region. One is the whole aspect, as Mahesh also was highlighting in his talk, the point of water, the need of water management. And the climate change scenario has really aggravated the need for water management, which are, these issues are primarily into two sections: the need of adaptation, climate change adaptation, and the other is on the need for climate change mitigation. So when we talk about water management, particularly in the Indian context, we have seen the issue of the surface water bodies shrinking, the issues of depleting groundwater, particularly when we look at the big cities, the mega cities, the metropolitan cities in the country, where there is acute issues of depleting groundwater. In terms of when you look at not only in the urban, be it also in the rural areas, we have been facing challenges of safe drinking water, water for productive use. And with the changing rainfall patterns, with the rising temperatures, the heat waves, we also see a big challenge in the area of food security. We have been recurring issues of crop failures, low productivity, in the quality of the product. And so this is a need for us to work on. And with the traditional livelihoods on the decline, we see issues of migration in search of jobs into nearby towns and cities, which do put a lot of stress on various aspects, on the resources, on the people, on children, and there is a need for us to work on those areas. And definitely the issue of increasing intensity and increasing frequency of disasters, particularly in this region that we have all been witness to these disasters that are on the rise, and a pertinent need for us to work on improving our preparedness towards the various disasters at all levels, not just at the community, but at different levels. There's a need for that. And now moving on to in terms of the mitigation aspects, which the clean energy. Now, in the Indian perspective, we see if you look at the rural communities, there is a lot of need for access to clean energy. No doubt there has been a lot of programs towards increasing the access to clean energy, but still there is a lot of scope for us to work to switch towards energy efficient practices, towards switching to renewable energy applications, and so on and so forth. And There is huge issues in terms of natural resource management, in terms of regeneration of degraded lands. These are all part of our efforts towards mitigation of climate change issues, restoration of the forests, in improving the green cover of areas, a huge challenge and a lot of scope for us to work. And definitely the need to promote an environmentally sustainable development at all levels, to promote the eco-friendly lifestyles. Next slide, please. Now, as World Vision, as we all know, that we are a child-focused organization, and our priority is to work with children on children issues. So, we work with children on sensitizing them, on creating awareness about the issue of climate change and what are the things that can be done and needs to be done in the communities at the individual level. And so we sensitize children through different ways, through workshops, through audiovisual presentations. We have different IEC materials, be it activity books, comic booklets, all towards sensitizing children on the issue. And during this current year, 2021-22, we have been able to sensitize roughly about 125,000 children on the issue of climate change and its various challenges through the children clubs that we have in all of the long-term development program locations. And along with that, small activities that add value. The children have been part of tree plantations in school campuses, in their own home backyards, and in the communities. And in 2019-20, we had, through the children participation, planted about 1 lakh saplings across the country. And during this year's World Environment Day, the children have actually planted about 30,000 saplings in different project locations. And the materials that we provide to the children are also, in a way, it's a learn with fun, where children engage with the teachers, engage with the elders in the household, in the community, to learn traditional knowledge about the use of native varieties of trees, what are its medicinal values, what are its, the whole concept about teaching children that trees are our friends. Next slide. And to continue on with children, we are empowering children to take action, to be an example. And we have had child-led initiatives, and where we see children have organized various rallies to sensitize the communities where they live, in terms of saying no to plastics kind of issues, where there are children rallies, saying no to crackers, because India, there were a lot of festivals, and during festivals, there has been a lot of use of crackers. And children have been taking initiative to say no towards these, to conserve water, a number of such issues. And we have been able to see positive changes in the community, with children being the change agents. And we also have been instrumental in providing children with platforms for them to express their concerns, their views to different stakeholders. And it has been, and children have spoken at different levels, in terms of the preparatory initial meetings towards the global platform on DRR. Children have been vocal about their concerns. They have spoken in the state assemblies, where children have been speaking to the government authorities, elected members of the legislation, on their concerns and issues. So, in a nutshell, it's about children being change agents in the communities. And there is a lot of opportunity for us to work with children on these areas. Next slide. On the various, these are some of the IEC materials that we have. Next slide. Yeah. As I mentioned, there is the whole issue of regenerating degraded lands. And in India in particular, this is one of the pressing environmental problems that we have, and the total area of degraded land in India is about 97.85 million hectares, which is a huge area, and there is a lot of potential for us to work towards regenerating them. During the last couple of years, we have been working on taking up small areas of land to regenerate, about 158 hectares of land taken up in on 3 to 4 project locations, using models like FMNR, that is farmer managed natural regeneration, and also plantation activities. And so we have one of the pictures over there is about those regeneration activities. And as we mentioned about the need for water management, we have been instrumental in working on improving surface water bodies, recharging groundwater. And if you look at the current year, 2021-22, we have been able to create about 46 farm ponds and community ponds, which are helping towards these efforts of water management. No doubt there are other efforts as well. The farming community, we work with farmers, about 1,500 farmers were trained during this 2 years on climate resilient and climate smart agricultural practices, which will enable them to not only improve their productivity, also manage their natural resources well, and also reduce the carbon emissions at their end. Next slide. I did mention about the aspect of access to clean energy and the need for switching to energy efficient practices. And in India, we do have a large dependence on biomass for the household cooking energy in the rural areas. And we see that according to the Forest Survey of India report, we see in 2020 about 85,000 tons of firewood is being used across India for the cooking energy purposes, which is a big number and does put stress on the available natural resources. And so there is a need to provide multiple options of clean energy that are affordable, accessible, and sustainable, and where there is a need for collective action from all fronts of stakeholders. And no doubt there have been different initiatives from the government and other stakeholders towards addressing this issue. But the need is so huge and vast that there is a need for all of us to come together. World Vision India in the recent years were instrumental in switching about 15,000 households into clean cooking practices, mainly in the remote parts of the country, through fuel efficient cook stoves, and which has enabled reducing emissions, improving indoor air quality levels, and also reducing vulnerability of children and the households from various illnesses, primarily in terms of illnesses that are respiratory based illnesses and others as a result of poor indoor air quality. And we've also been instrumental in working on home lighting, solar based home lighting. About 35,000 households in the recent few years were supported towards the solar based home lighting, and also the common spaces in the village through solar street lighting initiatives. And opportunities for collective action to develop local bioenergy units, and these can be affordable and sustainable. And we have also done small interventions on biogas, which are also something which can be taken up sustainably through such projects. Next slide. As I mentioned, that disasters are on the rise, and there is a huge need for us to work on disaster preparedness as part of our developmental programs. And we have been, equipping and training community-level task forces with special skills like first aid, search and rescue, early warning, and so on, so that they are the first responders towards any given natural or man-made disaster in the community. And we have been working on school safety initiatives as well, because children are extremely vulnerable in a context like disasters. And we have been able to, engage with 80,000 children and more than 3,000 teachers from 700 schools that have been participating in these school safety programs in the last 2 to 3 years. And Children are sensitized through different games on the ways in which they can protect themselves, their families, and also their communities, particularly in terms of the disaster preparedness aspects. Next slide. So, what are the opportunities that we have in collective action? So, the one is the child-focused, action-oriented initiatives that can be taken, be it awareness projects where there can be awareness as well as action involving children, and it can be a child-led projects where communities are sensitized and also children show the way of what are the things that they can do, and also developing a whole new generation of people of community who are more aware and who are more valuing the need for an environmentally sustainable development. Projects around water management at community and household level is a need of the hour because water is one of the key issues, as Mahesh also highlighted, key issues when we talk about climate change. Energy, particularly, is important from the perspective of the need for mitigation. So, clean energy projects, both at rural and household level, regeneration of degraded lands, and the need for disaster preparedness at community level. So, this could be in the form of resilient infrastructure, it could be in the form of equipping the community level task forces. With essential tools that can further add their capacity towards responding to different natural disasters. These are some examples of where collective efforts can be taken up towards climate change mitigation and adaptation and disaster risk reduction. Next slide. Thank you. Thank you for your patient hearing.
All right, thank you, Dr. Salman. That's a very interesting discussion and presentation. So I saw that wash is a complex issue that also linkage to the water management, the food security, livelihood, disaster, clean energy, and everything. And you have experience to emphasize child-focused initiatives like the child-led initiatives. So thank you once again, Dr. Salman, for your presentations. And after this, I also want to invite Nakul Sharma as a project coordinator for Climate Action Network South Asia. And Nakul Sharma, based in New Delhi, and he is part of Climate Action Network and also coordinating for various capacity building and advocacy driven programs. Having done a master's in renewable energy, his main area is for interest is clean energy advocacy, promoting locally driven climate action, and how energy policy and trade together can accelerate clean energy transition cooperation and prove to be a game changer for long-term regional peace and progress in South Asia. With a fair amount of experience in designing, implementing, and monitoring programs on community-based adaptation, drafting policy reviews on climate finance and low-carbon development. Nakul is leading research within South Asia on projects that aims to integrate climate knowledge and capacity building efforts at subnational, national, and international level. Nakul is also actively involved as a researcher in various other programs implemented by Cancer. Nakul, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Serene. It's glad to be part of this discussion, and big thanks to my previous speakers and to all the joinees who are listening in to this very important and timely conversation. I just want to check my screen sharing button is disabled. If uh, uh, I can share my screen, or whether you want to run the screen for yourself.
We can help you, Nakul, to share the
Okay.
screen.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Uh, so I'll start with the thank you for changing the slide, slide number one, if you can change it. I'll not take too much of time. I think time is something which is very critical for all of us, and this is more evident with the kind of period we are living in. Time is really crucial in terms of our action on climate change, and my previous speakers have done full justice to the fact that how important the issues of collective actions are, how important the issues of climate integrating climate change into the issues of wash concerns are, how important it is to understand the full complementarity of the crossroads we are in. So just taking a few pointers out of my slide, and also building and dovetailing the issues raised by my previous speakers, I would like to highlight three pillars for my discussion. First is, of course, climate change. Second is conflict, and third is COVID. We all know that in the recent couple of years, we have heard about we had faced the challenges of COVID across the world, and we are still in going through the same period of being affected by COVID and its exposure. The recent report, the World Sustainable Goal Development Report 2022, clearly highlights the fact that additionally 75 to 90 million people. Let me give some facts and figures also. Are pushed again into poverty due to these compared to the pre-COVID or pandemic period. Similarly, what is does is that climate change, COVID, and conflict. We all know the recent conflict after COVID. The basic response for across the world, across the geography, the basic response for governments was that you work on economic revival, right? Economic revival across the world, most of the global economies, large economies. I can quote very frankly the recent G7, Global Seven decisions by the in the Leaders Summit, where they undid the decisions by Environment Minister of stopping public finance for coal and fossil fuel economy. What is does is that and coming I'll what I'm trying to do is comparing and linking the global picture to where we need to integrate it to wash concern. What it does is that where we are moving as a response to COVID and climate change and conflict is that we our economies are going to depend more and more on resource depletion, on natural resource management strategies are being waived off. At this juncture, we need to take clear concise of the fact that we need to balance out our priorities. Of course, as in India, as a Climate Action Network South Asia, we are in total sync of the fact that we must need as region a rightful development stage. As global south, we need our rightful and equitable development stage in the global carbon share of our global carbon, so that millions of people lying into poverty can be brought out. Now, what these three C's, climate change, COVID, and conflict, are done, it's aggravating the concerns around sustainable development goals. No hunger, no poverty, water, sanitation, food security, everything is being impacted. Previous speaker, Dr. Salman, has clearly pointed out that there are critical, sectors that we need to look in. Water, for an example, Dr. Mahesh told that the scarcity of water is prevalent across our region. Energy, we know as a matter of fact, the energy emissions are required to decline at a very fast pace. On the other hand, in the last 1 year, the energy emissions globally has risen by 6%. Food, we are in every day listening to news that due to the current conflict between in Europe, the food security, the food edible oil security, the inflation is a thing which we need to do. The global community need to deal with. Disaster, we all know as a matter of fact that climate change has a direct linkages with the increase in frequency of disasters. 3 to 4 cyclones used to happen at both west coast and east coast of India on year basis. This has increased by 50%. Arabian Sea, which used to see a cyclones in 5 years down the line, every couple of years Arabian Sea is seeing a cyclone being made, and our east coast of correct west coast is least prepared to deal with this with this challenge of dealing with cyclones. 170 million people live on the coastal cities across India. Out of 1.5 crore, 170 million people live around the coastal cities. So there is a clear connection between climate change, conflict, and the impact. One other thing I also want to point out is that what climate change conflict is doing is that it is pushing people out of their home turf. There used to be a time when people used to migrate from their native places to cities in search of economic opportunities, education, and healthcare facilities. Now, climate change and conflict and disasters are making people to leave their own home turf, their native places, and have to move them in cities. And what is the other biggest problem is that even cities are unprepared. We had seen it during the COVID, initial response to COVID when government shut down the economy. District administration and our cities were totally unprepared. We had seen it on national media that massive amount of people, daily wagers, laborers, unskilled workers, had to move out from cities at least to guarantee one time meal to their native places. So this is a
Can you
vicious
please
circle.
highlight your point? Yeah,
Yes,
with detail.
I'm just coming to the point. I think, can you move to slide number 7 and 8? I think most of the speakers have covered the aspect of climate change and conflict and integrating into WASH. Next slide, please. I've also, uh, highlighted the fact that climate change, what it is doing is directly in relation to climate change and WASH is that there is, as the previous speaker said, there is a decrease in precipitation or increase in precipitation in some places. So what we are seeing is a bucket effect. A lot of rainfall is coming at some places and in a very short duration of time. That is increasing the frequency of floods in across the geographies. So we have seen in national media, Rajasthan used to be a place in India which was water drought most of the time. We are seeing witnessing floods in Rajasthan. Um, uh, Increase in precipitation and severe weather conditions has a direct relation with increased amount of vector-borne diseases, right? There had been reported cases in Delhi where chikungunya, dengue, malaria are being reportedly, a single person. There are multiple cases that have been reported. A single person has been diagnosed by all three vector-borne diseases. Increase in temperature level. We had seen the practical condition we are living in Delhi. We had seen intense heat this time across the northern plains in India, in Pakistan, across the northern plains of India. And this intense heat is also giving way to intense humidity during monsoon, which is unavoidable and also increasing the effect on our efficacy to bear that heat and also to our mortality rate. When we come to children per se, we all know children are, the least amount of consideration that any government program gives is on children. Uh, Next slide, please. So this is covered. So what we need to do to understand the climate risk, I think there is need, and especially there is a role for corporate sector. Since I am a field worker, there is special need for corporate sector to pitch in with corporate social responsibility and with n number of their responsibility management programs. That whatever intervention you are doing, you need to understand what is the impact of those programs on every aspect of child development, be it malnutrition, be it food security, be it sanitation, and be it health and hygiene, or be it the overall development. During disaster, we know, as a matter of fact, and during COVID, which was a pandemic, we had known a lot of people, a lot of school dropouts has happened. So we need to understand to what extent the climate risk or the pandemic or conflict has impacted the development programs that government is laying down or are to be laid down in the short to medium term. uh, how vulnerable strategies and plan should be made in a total in a in a fully integrated way, so that the action taken on one aspect of children development does not hamper the action on the other aspect. Does the strategy or plan inadvertently increases the vulnerability to climate change? So, for an example, if we are investing in irrigation, we need to check, is it a flood irrigation or is it drip irrigation that we are funding, right? If if we are promoting flood irrigation and we are not checking or implementing it the right way, does it not indirectly impact the water availability for the community? Are we not promoting or financing the coal power, the fossil fuel, or the gray sources of energy? Does it not decreases the availability of water to the community needed by community? So these are the examples. And can we strategize and plan to adjust and take into account the better information which is available and posed by climate change? So I think climate lens on any development program, be it related to energy sector, be it related to water sector, be it related to infrastructure development. I think there has to be a climate change, and at the end of the day, we need to understand what is the impact on the child development, what is the impact on water sector, water,
Cool.
hygiene, and
I'm
sanitary.
sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you because
So
we
I,
have.
I think with that I'll conclude.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So very great insight from you, Nakul. And we have one questions. This question is comes from the Kunai Sanj. I will show you the questions in the stage. Uh, World Vision India has many development programs in many communities. How do you plan to scale up your excellent initiatives to reach mass? This is questions for Dr. Son.
Yeah, thank you, Serene, for the question that has come from I think from one of the participants. So one is the in-house capacity that World Vision India already has on these various sectors that we have highlighted, be it in the area of WASH, be it in the area of climate change adaptation and mitigation, and the the footprint that we already have across the country in various locations. So it enables us to be to act quickly. So we have positioned ourselves in a way that we could work quickly on different issues of clean energy, on issues of wash, on water management, and also the whole aspect of empowering, sensitizing people and children on the need for shifting towards an environmentally friendly, sustainable development. So that is where I think we are positioned well on ground with boots on the ground, where we can scale up the initiatives that we have already piloted and done and seen the good impacts in our communities. That is where we are positioned as of now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Salmon. So, apologize that every questions that come in, we cannot hold the questions, but you can do a direct message to all the speakers during the event. And thank you so much for coming to this India concurrent sessions because we have limited time and we have another sessions coming in the 1 p.m. Singapore time. So we are having to move to the other sessions that will be speaking about the technology, an enabler or barrier for equitable education. So thank you so much, and thanks again for all the speakers and participants that coming to this event. I will end the sessions. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can
Thank you, Sam.
hear. Yeah, we can now move to the other sessions and the
Yeah, we'll go.
humanitarian.
Thank you, Siren, for the excellent coordination.
Great, thank you so much.